Beyond the terrestrial confines of Earth, who can say what lengths life will go to in order to survive, thrive, and propagate? Though we are the dominant species on our planet, we are but a mote of dust in the cosmos. Beyond the veil of our pale blue dot, one can only dream of the mysteries and horrors that dwell in the void. Though we may think ourselves strong and capable, in the end we are merely vessels of feeble meat and bone, ill-prepared for the cosmic violence of the great beyond. But what if the great beyond were to come to us? How would we fare against an organism that has traversed countless worlds and evolved to assimilate species en masse, leaving nothing but ash and rock in its wake? This is the theme of Slither, a 2006 film directed by James Gunn. Styling itself as a body horror homage reminiscent of the B-movies of the past, and an often hilarious one at that, Slither is certain to send shivers up your spine as its gruesome creature breeds with and feeds off of the unsuspecting townsfolk. The film's success is due in no small part to its horrifying antagonist. The parasitic organism, a milky slug that emerges from a meteorite in small-town USA, quickly establishes itself as an existential threat to humanity. Following a drunken frolic in the woods, a man named Grant and a female who tried to seduce him stumble upon this hostile organism. Almost immediately, the slug fires a barb into his chest, infecting him with a parasite. The parasite instinctively locates his brain within seconds, presumably securing full control of his body and cognitive functions. The audience soon learns that while Grant has been fully infected, some small part of him is still Grant, the same Grant that knows the local townsfolk by name, knows the town's layout, and still loves his wife. But his infection is only in the early stages. This is only the beginning. Immediately following his infection, Grant develops a voracious craving for meat, as well as a need to propagate. The audience soon learns that the meat is not necessarily for him, but for his soon-to-be-born progeny, tiny creatures that give the film its titular title. After willing himself not to breed with his wife, whom he still has strong feelings for, he instead preys upon a naive local girl who has been attracted to him since childhood. Just before the two embrace in a seemingly benign act of courtship, two grotesque tentacles emerge from Grant's body and penetrate her abdomen, one to inject countless eggs, and another to fertilize them. The hapless girl is then transformed into a veritable human-sized womb. Grant quickly buys as much meat as he can from the local stores, which is undoubtedly expensive and inefficient. He soon turns to slaughtering local fauna and pets, gathering up as much viscera as he can before local law enforcement can zero in on him. By the time the police determine that Grant is the culprit, he has transformed into a grotesque abomination that can hardly be recognized as something once human. The police surround Grant, along with his wife, who attempts to appeal to whatever trace of her husband remains. A foolish vigilante intervenes, however, and is quickly dealt with. Grant escapes with terrifying speed as the group gives chase, finally coming across an abandoned barn in the woods. The missing girl who Grant coupled with is discovered inside, but her condition belies any earthly comparison. Nearly stunned into silence, the group can only offer a few words of comfort to the engorged woman, who begs them to feed her the carcasses of nearby animals. Her discontent rises until she literally bursts at the seams, releasing a swarm of massive worms that envelop the entire group. The worms instinctively target the mouths of each person, forcing themselves to be swallowed as a part of the infection process. Through sheer luck, a few manage to protect their mouths and prevent being taken over by Grant's progeny, yet the rest of the town does not fare as well. As the countless slithering slugs spread across the county, nearly every person succumbs to this new biological threat. Only one girl is fortunate enough to survive, and in the process, she manages to glimpse a fragment of the truth. The worms are merely proxies for a collective intelligence that consumes all organic material on a planet before moving on to the next. Every body of flesh under its influence shares its vision, its emotions, its mind. The trade-off is that the initial organism is still mentally linked with Grant and therefore shares his traits and weaknesses. Grant's wife, along with what remains of local law enforcement, work their way towards Grant's location, the site where all the infected townsfolk seem to be converging. To their horror, they learn that the unfortunate victims are either merging with Grant's body to increase his physical mass, serving as wombs to propagate more slugs, or are simply consumed. When they enter Grant's lair, they learn that Grant is now a gargantuan Cronenberg-induced nightmare, a being of amorphous flesh and tentacles. Misshapen faces of half-dissolved friends and family are scattered around Grant's body, all mirroring his speech, evidence of the psychic link that binds them. In a clever ploy, Grant's wife offers herself to him, stating that she has never had much use for the world anyway. The creature draws close to her as if to embrace her, but is stabbed by a bladed mirror that she concealed in her dress. Enraged, Grant nearly kills her before the last remaining cop in town walks in with a grenade. Grant swats the officer away like a fly, along with the explosive, and begins the unpleasant impregnation process. However, in a last-ditch effort to stop the tentacles from depositing their gift, the officer latches one of them to a propane tank, filling Grant's mass with flammable gas. Grant's wife retrieves the officer's firearm that was dropped earlier and detonates the fumes, killing Grant along with every infected human in town. Spared a fate worse than death, the last remaining members of small-town USA walk into the sunrise, beaten but alive, with nothing but devastation in their wake.